Hello, Genius Jester here with another video. Today I'm going to be taking a new approach to all of my videos. It's come to my attention that on YouTube, the preferential time for a video is 10 to 20 minutes max, and people lose interest quite quickly if you just drag on and on and on. So today's video is going to be a quick and short one for hopefully 10 minutes, but if it becomes 20 minutes, I'll cancel it whether or not we're finished up. So, today, I'm going to be following up from my counterplay on Nimbani videos, and there was some recording that became missing due to an error I made. But in any case, we're going to be discussing dive and rush counterparts who do exactly the same job except along the horizontal path or the vertical path. We will also be discussing hit scan and projectile counterparts who do exactly the same job except along the horizontal, like Hanzo, and along the vertical, like Widow.
I aim to devastate.
So hit scan. Okay. So there are 3 pairs of tanks who share the same role. There are 3 pairs of damage dealers who share the same roles, and there is 1 pair of supports who share the same role. To begin with, we will go over the classic, the hardest counter in my opinion, Orisa and Doomfist. So I already discussed a little bit on how Orisa and Doomfist do the same role along the horizontal and vertical, with Orisa engaging with her twirl into a spear into the wall and following up with finishing damage into a block to survive for longer when she switches her target. Doomfist does the exact same thing, except Doomfist takes vertical corners while doing it. So he comes in, boom boom, punches, finishes them off, blocks the damage that comes, because no doubt they will want to shoot him once you dive in, gets his punch back, does it again, and then runs away. That's his rotation. So Orisa and Doom, Mauga and Hammond.
A gun in each hand and a smile.
So Mauga does damage from a long range, charges into a short range, especially if they run around the corner to save themselves. And at the end of his charge, they go into a stun animation where they're locked. And he follows up with his high dual wield damage per second. He also, when doing this, at the end will activate this and shoot the heads to get health. So he does that along horizontal corners. So say from that corner there to that corner there. So he could, for example, will be using this corner as cover, shooting at an enemy, put them on fire, try to finish them off. If they go around the corner, he comes in, slams, finishes them, activates his self-heal, and headshots the tank or whoever else he can to get health back. That's now his horizontal combo. Hammond does exactly the same thing, except he goes from vertical, from low to a vertical. So you might shoot someone up there, say a soldier, McCree, whatever. The soldier and McCree retreats behind the cover. Then he comes up, rolls in, and slam, shield, and shoots them with his fully automatic dual-wield weapons. The shield is the same as the health of Malga. Fully automatic weapons are the same. And the slam, boop into a slam, is the same as Malga's charge into a stop. So that's how they are perfect synergies. The trade-off with dive and rush is always the same. Orisa and Malga have more sustainability than Doomfist and Hammond. Yeah, so they have more sustainability, and they also do more damage per second than Doomfist and Hammond. And the reason for this, these advantages they have, is simply because it is an advantage to be able to go immediately to the high ground from the low ground. That's one advantage they have that they don't. It is also an advantage to, once you're on the high ground, use the high ground as cover while shooting below. So that's the second advantage they get from doing this. This is why their health is lowered, and this is why their damage per second of their weapon is also lowered. So account for the other advantages that they get. Moving on, we have the last tank duo, Reinhardt and Winston. So Reinhardt, very famous, very popular hero, controls corners against DPS and support. So say there was, you have control of this corner, or there's a soldier and a soldier and not a soldier, I'll say something more appropriate, a Torbjorn and a Kiriko here. Reinhardt would swing from the corner and do too much damage for them to stay there. Then they would retreat away. So what Reinhardt does is damages them, fire strikes them as they run. If they run away from him with a movement ability, flagged out there, he pins to the next corner and finishes them off. So that's how he does it. All the while he's doing this, he also, if necessary, will block their ability, the damage coming in. So if Torbjorn uses his overdrive ability, he will just pop his shield, block the overdrive, and as soon as it's done, continue with forcing. Winston does exactly the same thing, except against, say there was an Ashe and a supporting the Ashe, there was an Alive, right? Well, what Winston does is he can poke them from the ground if they go behind cover to, heal up from it, or, just to stop taking damage. He can follow it up with a boot into a sniper shot, melee, jump combo. As soon as he's done with this combo, he can put his shield down, his bubble, to block the incoming damage and finish them off. And if he doesn't finish them off, they will just retreat to the next passive corner, which is just as successful, basically. Don't have to get a kill, you just have to force them away from this corner. So what's accomplished with Winston is all this open airspace and open space here is no longer contested by the enemy DPS. That's what has been accomplished, and that's all he has to accomplish. It's great if you can get a kill, but you should never expect to get a kill with tanks. You should only expect for them to reposition. So yeah, that's the difference between Ryan and Winston. Moving on to the DPS category, we have 6 heroes that do the same task. These are actually from the very first season, they did the same. So we have Bastion and Torbjorn, we have Genji and Tracer, and we have Hanzo and Widowmaker. I did originally think that Ashe and Mei were the same, as they had the same fire rate and burst damage, but one's hit down and one's projectile. But with Ashe's Dynamite Coach Gun and Mei's Cryo Freeze and Wall, it's not a perfect synergy, basically. They're not really doing the same thing. The coach gun, it's hard to say. The coach gun for Ash excels at, for example, if you're holding this height, and like I said before, if a Winston dives up here, she has the option to displace the tank that's trying to force her off, which is the coach gun. It pushes her back, and it also pushes back any Winstons, Doomfists, Divas, or Hammonds that are trying to dive her and force her out of the square. So, in that sense, that's how she displaces tanks, and obviously if someone tries to retreat behind a corner, she throws her dynamite into a dynamite combo. So even if they're behind the corner, she can still finish them off if she got a headshot on them and got them fired. That's the biggest difference, is the dynamite and the cryo freeze, because the wall that May uses, it excels at also displacing tanks, rush tanks, but in a different way. Her wall excels at being used in a manner in which you can separate the tank down a choke path. So if a tank walks through here, she can separate them, freeze, and burst the tank down with her team. Or she also has the simple option of blocking off one rush path for a period of time. So say an Orisa is running down this path, she can block the Orisa off and stall her, and during the period of stalling, she can switch her attention to a DPS who's taking another path and kill the DPS without the tank being able to support the DPS in the rush. So in that sense, they both stall the dive and rush tanks respectively, so that also makes them similar. But her cryo freeze ability is just used to sustain, whereas Ash's dynamite ability is used to damage. So they're not perfect synergies, but they are, for the heroes that are available, they are the closest thing you can get to a perfect synergy with a long range burst hero. Long range semi-automatic burst damage hero, I should say. So Ash and May, long range, Hanzo and Widow, sniper range. That's sort of how you should see those two heroes. I honestly might categorize them as the fourth. They have the same fire rate, same damage per second. One's hit scan, one's projectile. They both displace tanks with their abilities, just in slightly different ways. It's just a dynamite that's the issue. That's got nothing to do with a cryo freeze. So she has no self-heal or sustainability like May does. If they shared an ability like that, like if May had a version of dynamite, but you know, with in an ice form or whatever, where she could headshot a hero, and then when the hero backs away around the corner to heal up, follow it up with a May version of dynamite, like, I don't know, throw a snowball over there that explodes, for example, then it would be a perfect synergy. And if Ash had an ability like Cryo Freeze instead of dynamite, so if she had like I don't know, an ability where she was invulnerable for a few seconds and got her health back, then it would also be a perfect synergy. It's just that those abilities that are creating the issue. But you can almost see them as before, because, yeah, they do control those spaces really well. I'll consider them the fourth, just with some strange ability difference, to be honest with you. So Ash and May, the fourth one. Hanzo and Widow, Tracer and Genji, Bastion and Torb. Bastion, hit scan version of Torbjorn, self-explanatory. You can shoot from that high ground at different elevations and the bullets won't miss. Self-explanatory. Torbjorn can't do that. If he shoots up, if he shoots down, his pellets will miss. But if he shoots at the same elevation, which is, you know, perfect for rush cards, he does more damage. Interesting thing about Torbjorn is that he also has a turret, which is a unique ability that Bastion doesn't have. So that is also to compensate for the projectiles. That's why he gets this extra ability. So this is Torb's only option against basically DPS who are difficult to hit and supports who are difficult to hit, because the turret will not miss and it controls space. Bastion doesn't have that option, but Bastion can look up and look down while shooting, and he can shoot those DPS and supports who are difficult to hit with his hit scan weapon, so that's why he doesn't even need it. That's another added benefit. But again, it's only valuable if his pellets hit the target. Which honestly, with the latest update, they should be hitting a lot, because the hitbox sizes are just absurd for projectiles. In that sense, I should really say that Torb and May actually sort of got a buff, because it's just easier to hit shots now. Even though they won't one-shot, it's much easier to hit the shot. So, honestly, I consider it an overall buff for them. But that's another story for another day. So going on, we have Genji. What's Genji do? He controls vertical corners. He can jump straight to a vertical corner and challenge who's ever up there and force them out. He can climb to a vertical corner, jump over their head, deflect if it's a projectile hit scan, so not Symmetra, but Soldier, McCree, you know, Widow, Sojourn even. Plenty of options for him to force them out of that corner, if not just straight up kill them. Very easy for him to kill them. At the very least, you can force them away from the corner, so that they have to retreat to the next corner of defense. Tracer, exactly the same. She can go from this corner. She can force who's ever at, say, this corner. She can just go, like, trickle them down, force them back, and when they try to run away, she can finish them off. The idea is like, with these fast heroes, is that your corners of cover do not matter as much because they are faster than you, so they can forcibly deny you the value of that cover in the first place. That's why it's yeah, so next we have Hanzo and Widow. Hanzo, projectile, great at controlling rush cards. Use all my shots. Does some more damage per second with his burst storm arrow. Especially when he had a scatter arrow. My god. I don't think he should have ever lost the scatter arrow. The scatter arrow was useless against Pharaoh echoing again. Supposed to kill Traces very easily. It's supposed to kill Orisi's very easily. That's the whole point. But you know. Yeah, people just hate the hero. Anyway. Moving on. Widowmaker. She controls from vertical corners. By the way, Hanzo controls from horizontal corners. Widowmaker uses the high ground to peek, take a shot, and then walk back to block the line of sight and take cover. Yeah, that's pretty much all there really is to it. They control those corners instead of take. One's hit scan, one's projectile. And I think that covers it. Yep, that's it for DPS. I'm gonna add Ashe and Mei as a fourth couple, to be honest with you. I believe they deserve it. Yeah, I think they do deserve it, to be honest. Have a little look-see at McCree. McCree does less. Yeah, he does less damage at a higher fire rate, so he's not like Ashe or Mei. But he is close to them, but Ashe and Mei are perfect synergies. There is no high ground version of a Junkrat. Yeah, there's basically spams grenades, hit scan version of that. Maybe it's McCree. Just let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hits 140 damage shot.
Plenty of balls to go around.
Yeah, he's definitely not the same. Definitely not the same at all. There's no dive form of Reaper. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So they're the four ones. We've got Ashe and Mei. We've got Bastion and Torturum. We've got Genji and Tracer, and we've got Hanzo and Widow, which are the classics. So supports. There is only one duo in the supports that do exactly the same role. And I think everyone knows what these are. They're the dreaded double immort comp. Not Lifeweaver's immort, even though that's technically an immortality, but the dreaded Baptiste Kiriko immort. They do the same sort of damage. Tri-burst, hit scan, 1, 2, 3. Kiriko,
I'll find my
projectile, 1, 2, 3. Same amount of damage. That's the same as the tri-burst, or close enough. And yeah, 1, 2, 3. So their damage source is the same, but one is projectile for these paths here. One is hit scan for the vertical. So projectile, hit scan. Something you need to understand. It's very important. They both have an immort, so Baptiste immorts people from the height usually. Kiriko,
I'll find my own.
she Suzu's. It's worth noting that Suzu self-heals her when she does it. So her actual combo is... I'll go over it actually later. I'll go over the BAP first because it's relative to rush paths, Kiriko's abilities. So the BAP, who is relative to height paths, let's just have a little bit. So he can shoot from high ground, use his cover. He can jump to high ground, so he can hold the defensive space here, for example, a line of sight that he couldn't hold from up there, and then he can defensively retreat to here as cover. Sort of like Widow's grapple, Ashe's thing as well. He can throw immorts down, and if he takes damage from say a dive here, he can self-heal or resist. He has a projectile self-heal ability, which is only useful when you're higher than your teammates, which perfectly fits his kit since he's always jumping to make himself harder to hit. He loves using these long bits of cover, like Pharaohs and Echoes and Genji use, these vertical corners, and healing his team and damaging the enemy. Now Kiriko doesn't like being up there, because if Kiriko is up there, even though she can wall climb, if Kiriko is up here, firing shots, she doesn't get an advantage from them. Not to mention, while she's climbing, she can't shoot at the same time. But, you know, they can move in 4 directions, and since projectiles are prediction-based shots, she will miss her shots. Baptiste hits his shots, so it's important to remember that's the reason why they're different. So Kiriko excels at holding a rush path. So on Numbani, I think we recalled that there were 4 potential rush paths that could be chosen. So how you play Kiriko is, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with her spamming at a rush tank, but preferably with heroes like Kiriko and Baptiste, you want to deny DPS or supports who are taking flank routes. So for Kiriko, if there's a tracer trying to take a flank route here, and her friendly team is down there, say that's her tank, that's her DPS that she's working together with to control the rush paths, she duels the tracer. If she kills the tracer, she switches her attention to them, teleports to them, Suzu's them, which will also self-heal herself, heals her team, and then takes out the tank and the support who are going down with her team, or whoever it is going down. Because you never know what they choose to do. But that's the idea between Kiriko and Baptiste. So she controls the laneways and the staircases and access to staircase. Baptiste controls the vertical airspaces. Both have immort, both do the same DPS, damage per second, but one's projectile, one's hit scan. So that about does it. Ana and Zenyatta are not perfect synergies, even though people always play them together. They are both ranged, but Zenyatta is a purely damage-focused support, whereas Ana has a sleep dart, which is a massive part of her kit to stop heroes who are diving her, or I guess rushing her as well. Zenyatta doesn't have sleep dart, he has kick. And the kick does the same thing, it knocks them off of the high ground that they're trying to dive from. But she has a grenade, which antis and self-heals, whereas he has a discord, which is purely focused on damaging. They're not the... It's hard to say these ones. Neither have mobility, so they do seem very similar. I might make an exception for these, like Ashe and Mei, where I made an exception, but they're not perfect. Perfect copies of one another, because Sleep Dart is not the same as kicking an enemy away. But not to mention this grenade is a first self-heal ability as well. Zenyatta doesn't have a self-heal ability, so that's the major difference between the two. She has anti-heals and self-heal, but Zenyatta is just pure damage. Not to mention Zenyatta actually does more damage. Zenyatta does more damage per second. It takes 3 shots for Ana to get a kill, 2, 3, and for Zenyatta, 1, 2, and they're dead. And not only 1, 2 and they're dead, but if he charges from the corner, he has a burst damage ability that just instantly deletes. So Zenyatta is damage focused support, range support, whereas Ana is a utility focused range support. They are very similar though, so I'll put them in the same category as Ashe and Mei, who are almost exactly the same, but aren't due to some slight differences. So let's say Ana is the hit scan version of Zenyatta, Ashe is the hit scan version of Mei, but they're imperfect. So to wrap up this video, because I promised I'd keep it short, we have 6 tanks, 8 DPS, 1 not really sure of, 4 supports, one duo we're not really sure of. And yeah, they do exactly the same as each other, except one on the vertical and one on the horizontal. And I guess that's where I'll wrap up the video. I'm gonna go Torbjorn, I'm gonna kill this guy to wrap it up. And you know what? I'll kill myself too. Because why not? Alright, catch us in the next one.